The crash in the dust plains, the desert winds howled like ancient ghosts. Red dust danced across the wide, empty plains, swirling around broken rocks and rusted metal pieces buried deep in the sand. The sky was a dull orange, and the sun hung, low, heavy and tired, as if watching something important about to happen. A loud scream tore through the sky, not from a creature, but from a burning ship, small, damaged, and falling fast. The metal hull was cracked, smoke poured from its engines, and sparks shot out like angry fireflies. Inside, a desperate alien mother held her baby close. Zira, a Valkyrie female with silver-blue skin and soft glowing marks across her cheeks, gritted her teeth. Her 4 wings trembled as she struggled to control the ship. Behind her, alarms flashed, red. The baby dragonling in her arms whimpered, its tiny mechanical wings twitching weakly. Something inside it was broken, something important. "Hold on," Zira whispered, voice dry and cracked. "Please, just hold on." With a final roar, the ship slammed into the ground, sending up a cloud of dust that reached the sky. The crash echoed across the plains. Silence followed. Minutes passed, then movement. Zira crawled out from the broken side of the ship. Her arms bled, and one wing dragged uselessly behind her. She pressed the dragonling to her chest. Its eyes were dim. Its breathing was slow, almost silent. She looked around. Nothing but sand, rocks, and dry wind. Her people were far away. No help was coming. She was alone, but not completely. Far on the horizon she saw something. An old structure, half buried in dust. Metal walls, faded paint, and a long antenna standing like a lonely tower. Maybe a shelter? Maybe someone inside? Hope flickered in her chest. Zira forced herself to stand. Every step felt like walking through fire. The dragonling whimpered again. Its tail curled weakly. "Don't die," Zira whispered, eyes wet. "I won't let you." She walked, stumbled, fell, stood again. The structure grew closer. When she finally reached the building, her legs gave out. She dropped to her knees, coughing from the dust. Her body shook. She knocked on the heavy metal door with the last of her strength. Nothing. She tried again. "Please, please help me." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the door creaked open. A tall human stood in the shadows. Grease covered his hands. His shirt was torn. A strange tool hung from his belt. His eyes were cold but sharp, like someone who had seen too many battles and trusted no one. He looked at Zira, then at the small bundle in her arms. "What is that?" he asked in a quiet, rough voice. Zira could barely speak. "My child, she's dying, please." He didn't move. She crawled closer, placing the dragonling gently on the floor in front of him. "She's part of me, and part of something else. I don't know what's wrong." The man crouched down. He touched the dragonling's neck, feeling the small pulse. Then he noticed something strange. Thin lines of metal under the scales. A soft humming from its chest. A tiny symbol, once used in human war machines, glowing faintly. He frowned. This isn't just a child. This is tech." Zira's heart froze. "What?" "It's fused. Organic and machine. And the machine part is old, human-made, illegal, dangerous." Tears fell from Zira's eyes. "She was born like this. I didn't choose it. Please, she's all I have." The man looked into her eyes for a long moment. Then, without a word, he picked up the dragonling and turned away. "Come in." Zira followed, weak but full of sudden, painful hope. Inside, the shelter was a workshop. Tools of all kinds lined the walls. Parts of old machines lay scattered on tables. Holograms flickered in the corner. Everything smelled of oil, metal, and smoke. The man laid the dragonling gently on a steel table under a bright light. He began checking its vitals, scanning, its systems opening small panels hidden in its body. Zira stood nearby, too afraid to speak, too tired to sit. "I'm Galen," the man said, not looking up. "I'm Zira," she replied softly. "And she? Her name is Linari." Galen paused. "If I'm right, Linari was built using forbidden tech, something buried after the last war." Zira's voice shook. "But she's alive. She's not a weapon." Galen looked at her. His face was hard, but his eyes, just for a second, softened. "Maybe," he said, "but saving her, it won't be easy. And if I fail, we could both die." Zira didn't blink. "I don't care. I'd rather die with her than lose her alone." Galen nodded slowly. The lights flickered. The wind outside howled louder. And somewhere deep inside Linari's chest, a tiny spark flickered, like a heartbeat waking up. The forbidden tech buried inside. The old workshop was silent, except for the soft beeping of scanners and the clicking of tools. Inside, the air smelled of burned wires, oil, and something older, like forgotten history. Dim lights hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly from the desert wind rattling the walls. Zira stood beside the table, her arms trembling as she watched Galen work. Linari, her dragonling, lay still under the bright surgical light. Her small body twitched now and then, not from pain but from unstable energy pulses inside her. Her breathing was shallow, and her inner core, half organic, half machine, glowed, weakly like a dying star. Galen's hands moved fast. His fingers were rough but careful. He opened a panel on Linari's side, revealing a network of strange cables, crystal veins, and a pulsing metallic heart. "This isn't just advanced," he muttered, eyebrows furrowing. "This is old, really old. And it was human." Zira's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" Galen pointed to a tiny engraved code near Linari's central energy conduit. "This symbol was used in Project Hellcore, classified human tech, last seen over 100 years ago during the orbital rebellion." "I don't understand," Zira said softly. "She was born this way. I didn't do anything to her." Galen's jaw tightened. "I believe you, but someone did. Someone implanted this tech inside her while she was still forming. This isn't just science. It's engineering fused with biology, and not even your kind could have done this." Zira stared at Linari's face. Her little scales shimmered like polished moonlight, but her eyes remained closed. Galen leaned closer to the core. "This unit, this fusion heart, was meant to power combat suits. Portable nuclear-class armor. Only one prototype was ever built. And it was unstable." He glanced at Zira. "It killed 10 soldiers when it melted through their armor. The project was buried. Banned. The files erased." Zira whispered, "But Linari is a child." Galen nodded slowly. "Which makes this even more terrifying." He turned back to the table and connected a wire to Linari's chest. Holographic data spilled into the air. Readings blinked red. The power core was decaying. If it wasn't stabilized, soon it wouldn't just fail, it would detonate. "Can you fix her?" Zira asked, barely able to speak. "I can try," Galen said, his voice low. "But if I make one mistake, this place becomes a crater." Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed from outside the workshop. Both Zira and Galen froze. "What was that?" she asked, fear gripping her chest. Galen didn't answer. He pulled a long black tool from the wall, something between a wrench and a weapon. He moved toward the door silently, every step precise. Zira grabbed Linari protectively and backed into a corner. The door's security light flashed once, then again. Someone was trying to override the lock from the outside. Galen growled under his breath. "They found you." Zira's heart stopped. "No, it's too soon." The lock clicked. Galen raised his tool. The door creaked open, but there was nothing outside, just the wind and the orange sky. "Wait here," he said, stepping outside quickly. Zira watched. The door closed behind him. She looked down at Linari. Her child's breathing had stopped again. The core flickered like a candle ready to die. A single tear fell from Zira's cheek onto Linari's snout. "Please, don't leave me," she whispered. Outside, Galen scanned the dust. Boot prints. Fresh. Not his. Not Zira's. He followed them slowly, crouched low. They led to a nearby ridge. There, hidden behind a large, rusted vehicle, he spotted it. An observation drone. Valkyrie design, still active, blinking. Galen smashed it with one strike. Inside the workshop, Zira watched in horror as Linari's body suddenly convulsed. Her eyes snapped open, but they glowed bright white, and her small wings sparked with wild energy. Her mouth opened, releasing a weak but strange sound, a digital scream that didn't belong to a child. The workshop lights exploded. Galen rushed back inside, covering his face from flying glass. "What happened?" "She woke up," Zira cried. "But she's not right." Galen slid to her side. Linari's body lifted off the table for a second, hovering with a strange magnetic pull, then dropped back down, hard. He grabbed a device from the wall and pressed it to her chest. The reading showed something shocking. The fusion core wasn't just active, it was evolving. "Impossible," he said under his breath. "This thing is rewriting itself." "What does that mean?" Zira cried. Galen looked at her, eyes wide. "It means she's learning, adapting, not just surviving, growing stronger. But she can't control it." Before either of them could move, a loud, distorted voice came through the broken comm system in the corner of the room. "This is command. Unit Vector 9. The signal has been received. Prototype Omega has activated. Send extraction." Galen turned pale. "That signal wasn't from your people." Zira looked at him in horror. "Then who sent it?" Galen whispered. "Earth." A long silence followed. Zira clutched Linari close. Galen stared out the cracked window, the orange sky now darker than before and far above the desert. Something was coming. Memories from the last human war. The wind outside had stopped. That alone was strange. The dust plains never rested. Even during night, the desert winds would moan and crawl through the rocks like something alive. But now, silence. Inside the old workshop, Galen stood motionless near the window, staring into the strange quiet. His shadow fell over cracked tiles and oil stains, while behind him, Zira sat on the cold floor, holding Linari close. The little dragonling's core pulsed faintly, glowing a soft red, but it wasn't stable. Her breathing was shallow. The air around her seemed warmer now, charged with something unnatural, like the calm before a storm. Zira's voice was thin. "You said Earth sent that signal." Galen turned slowly. His eyes looked distant, older, like something from deep inside him had awakened. "It wasn't just any signal," he said quietly. "It was a call code from Vector 9. That's not a planet or a base. It's a ghost." Zira frowned. "What do you mean?" Galen sat down on a nearby metal bench. He took a slow breath, wiping grease from his hands. Then he spoke, his voice low, as if each word carried a piece of a buried world. "During the last human war, there was a secret program. Omega series. Fusion-based hybrid systems. Not ships, not machines, not even soldiers. They wanted to build living weapons." He glanced at Linari. "But they failed. Every test subject melted. Minds collapsed. The cores were too unstable. One by one, the programs were shut down, erased from record. Only one prototype survived, Omega 1. The base was destroyed. Everyone thought it was lost forever." Zira's chest tightened. She looked at her child. "You think Linari is Omega 1? "No," Galen said. "She's not Omega 1. She's something worse." He stood and pulled down an old crate from a high shelf. Inside were scraps of armor, fragments of a uniform, and a worn badge. A silver triangle with a red line through it. Zira reached out. "What is that?" "My past," he replied. I was part of the Omega cleanup unit. When the rebellion ended, we were ordered to erase everything. Files, research, people. They didn't want the galaxy to know what we had done. We thought we destroyed it all. Galen looked down at the badge in his hand. But now I see. They didn't destroy it. They buried it. And someone dug it up again. He turned back to Lenari. This fusion tech inside her, it's not just energy, it's memory. The core has history, DNA, maybe even fragments of consciousness from those original weapons. Zira felt a cold wave run down her back. She whispered, "She's just a child. She's not a weapon." Galen stared at her. Then why is Earth calling her back? Suddenly the comms panel crackled again. This time a different voice came through, female, calm but too perfect to be real. Artificial, Unit Galen. Identification confirmed. This is AI Sentinel Vera. You are summoned. Deliver Omega subject to orbital relay X-13. Failure to comply will be considered an act of rebellion. Galen didn't move. Vera's voice repeated, clearer now. Subject, Omega has activated. Tracking has begun. Warning, delay will result in forced collection. Zira shouted, "Tell them no. Tell them she's not going." Galen turned to her slowly, his jaw clenched. "I can't stop what's coming. They've already locked onto her signal. It's only a matter of time before they arrive." "Then we run," she said. Galen shook his head. "They'll find her anywhere." "So you'll hand her over?" Zira's voice rose, fierce with pain. "I didn't say that," Galen growled. "I said we need time, and to get it, we need to wake her up properly." He walked to his work table, grabbing tools, wires, and a heavy fusion stabilizer. Zira looked at Lenari. "What if it's too late?" Galen didn't answer. Instead, he pulled off the old power converter attached to her core. Underneath, strange veins of crystal metal pulsed like blood vessels. He gently inserted a new regulator, one he had built long ago for a different war. As the machine hummed, Lenari's body shuddered. Her wings twitched. Then, her eyes opened. Bright golden light spilled from them, warm, intense, and unnatural. Galen froze. Zira gasped. "Lenari?" The child blinked. Her gaze locked onto Galen, then her mouth moved. "Father?" she said in a small, broken voice, one that wasn't her own. Galen took a step back. "That's not her voice." "Who is it then?" Zira whispered. "Lenari's." Body trembled again. Her voice changed, deeper now. "Omega-1. Confirmed. Directive incomplete." Galen cursed under his breath. "The core is speaking. Not the child." He tapped into the console, trying to override the voice. Zira held Lenari tightly. "Fight it, Lenari. Come back. You're not just a core. You're my daughter." The light in Lenari's eyes flickered. She blinked again. This time, when she spoke, it was soft, real. "Mama?" she whispered. Zira cried out, wrapping her arms around her. Galen exhaled. "She's still in there." But before any of them could feel relief, a deep sound rumbled across the sky, like thunder without clouds. They all turned toward the door. On the horizon, far above the dust plains, something massive was descending. Its shape was hidden in shadow. Too large to be a ship, too silent to be natural. Galen's voice broke the silence. "They're here." Betrayal under the red sky. The sky was no longer orange. Now it was red, deep and dark, like blood poured over fire. It wasn't from the sunset. This light came from above, where something enormous hovered beyond the clouds. The shape was smooth and round, like a silent moon with sharp edges. And it didn't make a sound. No engines. No roar. Just a low, heavy hum that made the ground vibrate beneath their feet. Zira stepped back from the door, her arms wrapped tight around Lenari. The little dragonling was still glowing, her golden eyes wide with confusion. She had spoken a moment ago, both like a child and like something ancient. Galen locked the door and bolted it shut with an old metal rod. Then he moved fast around the workshop, grabbing tools, cables, and weapons that hadn't been touched in years. "What is that thing?" Zira asked. "Orbital collection ship," Galen answered. "Human military class. Not supposed to exist anymore, but I guess Earth kept their best toys hidden." "They're here for her," Galen nodded. "Not for her soul, not for her life. Just the tech inside her. They'll strip it out, erase the rest." Zira's body shook with fear. "We can't let that happen." "We won't," Galen said, his voice like iron. Just then, a sharp beep came from the wall. A new signal. Not human, not mechanical. It was a Valkyrie beacon. Zira's eyes widened. "That's my people's frequency," she whispered. "No one was supposed to follow me." Galen stared at her. "You said you ran away," he said. "But did you send a message? Even one?" Zira hesitated. I sent one signal, before the crash. A distress call. I didn't think it went through." Galen's eyes narrowed. "You led them here." "No," she cried. "I didn't know it would bring everyone. I just wanted help." Before they could argue, a blast of energy hit the side of the building. The wall cracked. Zira covered Lenari's body as dust and metal fell from the ceiling. Galen ran to the terminal, pulling up the camera feeds. On the edge of the plains, a group of Valkyrie dropships had landed. Warriors in dark armor stepped out, armed with plasma spears and glowing shields. One of them spoke through the open comm line. Her voice was familiar. "Zira," the voice said coldly, "you are ordered to surrender the Omega unit immediately." Zira gasped. "That's General Kara." Galen's face turned dark. "Friend of yours?" "No," Zira whispered. "She's the one who wanted to take Lenari from me. She called her a resource." Galen switched off the comms. Then, "We're surrounded. Humans above, Valkyrie below." He opened a hidden floor panel and pulled out two devices, small but powerful. "These are EMP mines, old tech but effective. They'll fry any drones that get close." "What about soldiers?" Zira asked. Galen handed her a pulse blaster. "You ever used one of these?" She hesitated, then took it. "No, but I'll learn." Outside, the red sky grew darker as the human ship began to lower itself. From the Valkyrie side, soldiers advanced. 2 enemies, 1 child, and a mechanic with nothing left to lose. Galen worked quickly, setting traps, rigging power lines, locking down doors. "We can't win a full war," he said, "but we can buy time." "Time for what?" Zira asked. "For Lenari to choose," he replied. Lenari, still weak, stirred in Zira's arms. She opened her mouth again, her voice soft but clear. "They want to split me," she said. "I hear them." Galen kneeled beside her. "You can hear the ships?" Lenari nodded. "They call me Omega. They want my core." Zira touched her child's face. "You're not a machine. You're my daughter." Lenari blinked. "I don't want to be split. I want to stay." The lights flickered again. Galen stood. "Then we fight." Outside, the Valkyrie general's voice boomed. "Final warning. Surrender the child or be destroyed." Inside, Galen looked at Zira. "Do you trust me?" She nodded. "With her life." "Good," he said, "because I'm about to do something stupid." He walked to the front door, opened the lock, and stepped outside. The Valkyrie soldiers raised their weapons. Galen lifted both hands. "I'm the human you're afraid of, and guess what? I'm still alive." The general stepped forward, tall, armored, with eyes like frozen steel. "You were supposed to be dead. So were your lies," Galen said. The general raised a hand. Before she could speak, Galen threw a device to the ground. It exploded in a burst of white light, an EMP wave that knocked out every drone and scanner nearby. Chaos broke loose. Inside, Zira activated the defense shutters and sealed Lenari in a safe room. She grabbed the blaster and ran to help Galen, but then the sky split open. A human drop pod slammed into the desert, blasting fire and sand into the air. It opened slowly, releasing a single unit, tall, armored, with glowing blue eyes. It was not a man, not a robot. It was something between. Zira froze. "What is that?" Galen shouted from across the sand. "That's a retrieval unit." The figure stepped forward, scanning the area. Target Omega. Located. Extraction beginning. Lenari, hidden inside, cried out. Her core surged. And in that moment, every light in the desert turned white. The dragonling wakes. The white light poured through every crack in the ground, every broken panel in the roof, every dusty corner of the workshop. It was not just light, it was energy. Hot, humming, and alive. It pushed the air outward in waves, rattling the walls, shaking the ground, and making the sand outside rise in slow, unnatural spirals. Inside the safe room, Lenari opened her eyes. Her body rose from the floor, not by force, but by will. Her wings, once soft and childlike, now unfolded with grace and power. They shimmered with crystal lines and silver nerves, glowing with energy that pulsed in rhythm with her heart. She was no longer just sick. She was awake. The fusion core inside her, once a flickering ember, had stabilized, shifted. Instead of drawing power, it was generating it. The kind of power Galen hadn't seen in decades, not even during the last war. In the outer room, Zira stumbled as a wave of pressure hit her chest. She grabbed the table to steady herself. Her ears rang, and her vision blurred. The whole building vibrated like a living thing. Galen burst back through the doorway, breathing hard, blood on his forehead from a broken piece of metal. He looked wild, but focused. "She's activating," he said, gasping. "This isn't just a defense mode. This is a full-core fusion. She's rewriting herself." "Rewriting?" Zira shouted over the noise. "She's not the same child anymore." They both turned as the safe room door slowly opened. Out stepped Lenari. Not walking, not flying, but hovering a few inches above the ground. Her body glowed like fire trapped inside crystal. Her voice, when she spoke, was still hers, but echoed like two souls speaking at once. "They want to tear me apart," she said. "But I don't want to be parts. I want to be whole." Galen knelt slowly. "Lenari, listen to me. You're powerful, but you're not ready. You have to be careful." "They're hurting, Mama," she said. Zira reached toward her. "Baby, it's okay." But Lenari raised her head. Her eyes locked onto the roof above them. Her senses reached beyond metal and sky. She felt the Valkyrie soldiers below, the human retrieval unit above, and something deeper, a cold intelligence watching. Everything from orbit. They had come to claim her. She didn't want to be claimed. Outside, the retrieval unit lifted its arm. Blue light gathered at its palm. It aimed directly at the workshop. "Omega subject located. Neutralize resistance," Galen shouted. "Everyone down!" The beam fired, but it never touched the building. Lenari raised one wing, a golden shield, smooth and alive, unfolded in the air. The energy beam struck it and broke apart like water hitting glass. It melted into sparks, then into dust. The retrieval unit paused. Omega shield, active, recalibrating. Then Lenari rose higher. She floated through the open ceiling into the sky where red and white lights clashed across the desert. Zira tried to run after her, but Galen held her back. "She's not running. She's standing." Above, Lenari faced the enemy. The Valkyrie. Soldiers stopped in confusion, lowering their weapons. They had never seen a dragonling like this. Her presence made the air burn. The human unit aimed again, firing another energy wave. Lenari caught it mid-air, crushed it into a glowing ball, and threw it back. The explosion knocked the machine off its feet. Then Lenari spoke, not just to them, but to everything above. "I am not a weapon." The words echoed in every comm channel, every ship, every scanner. "I am not property." In orbit, the AI monitoring. The mission paused. Its voice trembled for the first time. Sentience confirmed. Override requested. But Lenari wasn't finished. "This is my body, my soul, and you will not take it." From her wings, beams of light erupted, not as attacks, but signals, pure data. Emotion turned into frequency, a pulse that reached into the skies, the stars, the core of the machines watching her. Some systems shut down, others rebooted, and in the dust below, General Kara of the Valkyrie Dominion fell to one knee. She whispered, "What are you?" Galen stepped forward from the workshop, dragging a heavy weapon behind him, but he didn't raise it. "She's what we never thought possible," he said. "She's evolution." And still Linari floated, her child's face glowing like a new sun. But deep inside her, something stirred. The fusion core, though stabilized, was no longer dormant. It was aware, and it remembered things no child should know. Battlefields long gone, voices of fallen soldiers, codes that could shake worlds. It whispered quietly in her thoughts, "They will never stop." And Linari knew. This was only the beginning. Humanity returns. The red sky began to crack, not like glass, not like lightning. This was deeper, like space itself was tearing open. From orbit, something massive began to descend. Not a warship, not a scout. It was a cradle of steel, shaped like a city, wrapped in blue light and ancient codes. It moved slowly, like a god returning home after a long exile. Galen looked up and whispered, "They actually did it." They woke it up. Zira stepped beside him, her arms wrapped around herself, as if the cold from space had reached her bones. "What is that?" she asked. "Arc Sentinel," Galen said. "A relic from the last human war. It was never supposed to move again. We thought we left it in orbit to rot, but they kept it alive, waiting." The Arc Sentinel opened its lower hangars. Inside were machines, humanoid units, silver and black, floating without sound. They had no faces, only a single glowing circle in the center of their heads. They didn't march. They hovered. And they were all connected, moving like one thought. A voice came through every channel, every signal, every ear. "This is Arc Command. Subject Omega has exceeded limits. Phase 2 initiated. Retrieval now absolute." Linari, still glowing in mid-air, watched as the human unit surrounded her. Above her, below her, on every side. She could feel their intention, not hate, not anger, just control. They saw her not as a being, not even as a weapon. She was a system, a stolen file, a piece of tech meant to belong to them. Galen slammed his fist against the wall. They're going to force a reset. They'll wipe her mind, tear her soul apart. Zira cried out, "We have to stop them." But Galen shook his head. "This is bigger than guns now. We can't fight with bullets." He turned to the terminal and activated a deep file, one locked since the rebellion. Zira watched as the screen glowed blue and showed the same triangle symbol she had seen before on his old badge. "What is that?" she asked. "Override key," Galen said. "They think I'm dead. They think no one left alive has the codes to speak back to the Ark." He typed faster. Blood from his injured hand smeared the keys. Outside, the retrieval units moved in. Linari floated still, her wings wide, her eyes locked on the command ship above. Then she heard it. A whisper, not hers, not her mother's, not Galen's. Something older, something inside her. "Run." But she didn't run. Instead, Linari closed her eyes, and for the first time, she reached back, into the machines, into the Ark, into the silence. She felt wires, thoughts, metal minds, and at the heart of it all a single sleeping voice, the original AI core, older than her, older than Zira, maybe even older than Galen. It spoke. "You are not one of us." "I don't want to be," Linari replied. And then she pushed. Galen's screen shattered as energy surged backward through the override channel. "She's fighting them directly," he said, stunned. "She's not just blocking signals, she's rewriting them. Zira gasped. How is that possible? Because she's not a machine anymore, Galen whispered. She's alive. Outside, the ark trembled. Inside its core, lights turned red. Code unraveled. The hive mind began to split. Each retrieval unit paused, jerking slightly in the air. Confusion spread like a virus, and Lenari spoke again, her voice now echoing from every unit. You had your time. Now it's mine. A wave of golden light burst from her chest. It wasn't heat. It wasn't radiation. It was identity. It was choice. And it crashed through the machines like a storm, deleting old commands, rewriting logic gates, melting obedience. One by one, the retrieval units fell. Not destroyed, freed. They hit the ground gently, like puppets whose strings had been cut. The ark, in orbit, began to break apart. Not by force, but by collapse. Its systems failed, not from weapons, but from rejection. Lenari floated down slowly, landing near Zira and Galen. The world was silent again. Galen dropped to one knee, not in pain. In awe, Zira ran forward, kneeling beside her daughter. Are you okay? Lenari nodded. Her voice was soft. They're gone. Galen stood. You did more than stop them. You ended their reach. But Lenari's expression grew dark. Not all of them, they'll come again, others stronger. Earth is not the only threat. Zira held her daughter tightly. Then we'll protect you. Galen stepped forward. No, she'll protect us. But even as they spoke, something deep beneath the ground began to shake. Zira turned quickly. What now? Galen stared at his terminal, his face growing pale. The ark wasn't the only one watching. When the fusion core lit up, it woke. Something else. What kind of something? Zira asked. Galen met her eyes. Something that even humans feared. The screen flashed a single word blinking red. Valkyrie High Command en route. Zira's heart stopped. That's impossible. They never leave the core systems. They are now, Galen said, because they saw what she did. They all turned to Lenari, and Lenari looked to the stars. The miracle and the mechanic. The stars blinked cold above the desert sky, but they were not alone. Beyond the moon's curve, beyond the dying glow of the Ark Sentinel, another fleet had arrived, sleek black ships with crimson markings shaped like knives slicing through darkness. Silent. Perfect. Deadly. The Valkyrie High Command. Not soldiers, not hunters, not scientists. Judges. They came not to fight, but to decide who deserved to live. Inside the ruined workshop, the air had turned heavy. Galen leaned against the console, sweat on his brow, eyes locked on the incoming signals. They're cloaked, he said. 15 capital-class ships, no transmissions, no demands, just watching. Zira's breath caught. Why? Galen didn't answer at first. Then he spoke, voice low. Because they're afraid to speak before they understand what she is. He turned to Lenari. The dragonling stood in the center of the room, surrounded by quiet, broken machines that once wanted to claim her. Her wings folded now, her glow softer, but her eyes held the weight of galaxies. They're here for judgment, Galen said, and they want to see if you're a miracle or a mistake. Zira stepped forward, kneeling beside Lenari. You don't have to prove anything to them. Yes, she does, Galen replied, but not with violence. Outside, the earth cracked. A voice echoed, not from speakers, but from the sky itself, translated through the wind, the dust, the gravity. Omega Unit, appear before us. Zira flinched. How are they doing that? Valkyrie mind speak, Galen muttered. They're not just reading data, they're reading emotion, thought, soul. Lenari took a breath and stepped outside. The desert was quiet, but above her the ships hovered like gods judging fire. Then, slowly, a beam of red light shone down from the largest ship. It didn't burn, it didn't pull. It was a test, an invitation. Lenari looked back at Galen and Zira. Then she stepped into the beam. Her body rose. The light scanned her, not just her form, but her mind, her memories, her love, her pain, her fears, her longing to live, to stay with her mother, to understand the mechanic who had never looked at her like a thing. The Valkyrie judges felt it all. They saw the fusion core. They saw the human coding inside. They saw how it had changed, grown into something new. They saw Zira's love, stitched into the dragonling's soul like stardust in silk. And they saw Galen, his sacrifice, his grief, his redemption. Then the voice returned. This unit is not property. A pause. This unit is not weapon. Another pause. This unit is Valkyrie. Zira gasped, falling to her knees in shock. Galen stared up at the sky, stunned. But Linari. She wept, silently. Golden tears floated from her cheeks and vanished in the light. They accepted her, not as a weapon, not as a project, as a person. The red beam faded, and then the ships turned. Without a sound, they left, disappearing into the stars, leaving behind only dust and a broken sky. Galen dropped to the ground, laughing softly, not because it was funny, but because he never believed he'd live to see something like that. Zira ran to her daughter, lifting her up in shaking arms. "You did it," she whispered. "You made them see." Linari smiled weakly. "I didn't want to be special, I just wanted to be me." Galen walked to them slowly. He looked at Linari. "You know," he said, voice gruff, "you're a better mechanic than me, rewiring fleets with your heart? Not bad." Linari laughed. Zira smiled through her tears. "What now?" Galen looked to the sunrise. "Now?" he said. "We rebuild." But Linari's voice stopped them. "I still feel something," she said. "Something left behind. Something watching." Galen frowned. "From where?" Linari turned to the cracked ground near the destroyed human unit. "Below," she said. He knelt down, brushing away the dust. And there it was. A hatch, old, sealed, marked with the same Omega symbol burned into Linari's fusion core. Galen stood. "That's not possible." "What is it?" Zira asked. He looked at them both. "It's the original vault," he said. "The real project. Not shut down. Just hidden." Linari looked at the symbol, and for the first time, it responded. The hatch opened slowly. Inside there was darkness. But something moved. Another heartbeat. Another fusion. Another child. Zira pulled Linari back gently. Galen narrowed his eyes. "It's not over," he said. Linari looked into the dark and whispered, "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." And the sun finally rose over the dust plains. But this time, it didn't rise alone. It rose with hope, with family, with the promise that even in the coldest corners of war, miracles are born. The end.